Where we're aiming to go to is out over the West Country. Now, of course, the sonic boom which I described to you yesterday starts to be shed off the aircraft when we go through the speed of sound, and it's not acceptable to have that sonic boom on the ground over populated areas. So we limit our speeds to subsonic speeds until we get out over water. And on our route, that's over the Bristol Channel. So we're going to fly from Heathrow, climbing up to 28,000 feet, which is our optimum subsonic cruising speed at heavy weights, and limiting our speed to a Mach number of 0.95, just 95% of the speed of sound. And at that height of speed, we're still already 100 miles an hour or so quicker than ordinary subsonic aeroplanes. We'll then maintain that height and that speed until we get out over the Bristol Channel. We'll pass over the city of Bristol. The north coast of Somerset and Devon will be on our left-hand side, the south coast of Wales on our right-hand side. And as the Bristol Channel opens and widens, then we get to the point where we can start our supersonic climb and acceleration. When we get to that point, of course, we'll go through that in more detail and show you the procedures we operate. So initially, as we climb out of Heathrow, we latch onto a speed of 250 knots soon after takeoff, which is our best noise abatement speed. We then increase our speed when we no longer need to fly at that speed for optimum noise abatement, up to a cruising speed of VMO, which today will be something like 397 knots. And then as the Mach number starts to take over from that, we'll limit our speed to 0.93 and then 0.95. So it's a progressive climb and increasing speed all the while until we settle into our subsonic cruise, 28,000 feet, and a Mach number of 0.95. The departure we're going to do is, as I said, from runway 27 left. It's actually very close to where we are. It's just a few hundred yards away on my right-hand side. So it's going to be a very short taxi. And most of the aircraft will be departing from the other side of the runway, because the main part of Heathrow is actually on the other side of the runway. Terminal 4, mostly used by us, of course, here at Heathrow, is on the south side. So there'll be very little taxi traffic in front of us, but probably quite a bit of traffic coming from the other side of the airfield. But quite a short taxi, and as I say, departure off towards the west. Now, of course, the other thing you'll see during the departure is the handling of the throttles. I'll talk as we go through that procedure, but what we're going to do, as I said yesterday, was to move the throttles fully forward for departure, and Roger will have pre-engaged the afterburners, which will light up as we do that. Then there will be calls for noise abatement, 3, 2, 1 noise you'll hear, and when that happens, Roger will switch off the afterburners and throttle back the engines to a predetermined engine setting to give us good climb performance, but to make us as quiet as we can be for the local community. And then today, a little later on, after we've applied 2% more, eight-hour climb when we get a little bit higher, we'll gradually increase our power back again to our normal dry power. Now, dry power is what we call the power setting when we have the throttles fully forward, but no afterburners engaged. So full dry power is the throttles fully forward and no afterburners engaged. And at that stage, then, the next time the throttles will come back as we slow down again to settle at our cruising altitude of 28,000 feet. So the procedures for departure are going on all the while. I'll turn back and get on with a bit more of the paperwork at the moment. I'll talk to you again a little later. Okay, so more of the inevitable paperwork's being completed, and we got to the point now where we can come together and start reading from the checklist to bring ourselves towards the non-scheduled departure. I'll ask Les to start reading from the checklist.
Okay, Master CBs.
They are set and checked, and I have no flags in the middle.
No flags.
Cockpit preparation security.
Check.
Complete.
Complete.
And complete.
Oxygen.
On checked and 100%.
Check 100% here. DV windows.
Port.
Starboard's closed. Flight control inverters. They're on. Anti-stall systems. They're on. Rad INS switches. Radio. Instrument transfer switches.
Set.
Altimeters. Last we had was 1013.
1013, 80, 680, 20 feet and normal set.
Checked and set. Nav radios.
We've got London on both with 260 in the QDM. We've got Woodley on both NDVs.
Yeah, they're all identified. Brakes, park. We're waiting for the engineers to finish, aren't we? Nav lights.
They're off.
Throttle masters.
They are main.
Ground hard checkup.
Yellow, and off.
Fuel heaters.
Auto.
Engine reset valves.
Shut.
Secondary air doors.
Selected auto, Dave.
Checked.
Batteries.
On.
The INSs.
Okay, all ready?
All set.
Yep,
Present
go ahead.
position from the book. North 51276, west 266.
Check.
Checked. Waypoint 1, checking the first 4, is Woodley, north 51272, west 000527.
Check.
And 2 is Compton, north 51295, west 001131.
Check.
That's check.
3 is Molby, north 51355, west 2036.
Check again.
And number 4, the Axel Point, north 512403 degrees and 50 west.
That's all checked.
All checked.
Down to 0, ready for nav.
Ready for now.
Nav on 1, 2, 3, and the ready nav lights are out.
Loading check, nav mode mix.
Loading check, nav mode mix here as well.
Loading check, nav mode mix.
Looking at the airside bugs, pitch indices.
Right, I have 165 set twice. 193, 214, 250, 254, and 13 degrees, which cross-checks.
Yeah, set. Fuel flow P7 bugs.
You agree with these, Roger?
Yep, that's fine.
4 and 200. Back there. 391, 385.
Agreed.
That cross-checks.
Okay, clock TLA bugs.
82 seconds, which is 122.
Yep.
Set on both sides, cross-check.
And I've set 15 and a half.
2.5 degree check.
Right. Briefings next.
Okay, it's 27 left. Standard left-hand seat departure. As per the SID, which we're all very familiar with, it's turn left onto 260, which is set up on there. We climb into 6,000 feet. We've got to cross Woodley at 4,000 feet or above. Safety height within 25 miles is 2,300 feet, and before top of climb is 3,300 feet, so we'll use 3,300 feet.
Understood.
We'll stop for the usual emergency items that we would stop for. Come to rest on the runway. Make sure we monitor everybody and do the correct drills. We'll stop, ascertain what's gone wrong, sort out the situation, agree a diagnosis and actions before we get any pressure on us to taxi off the runway. If we're happy, we'll taxi off. If not, we'll call for assistance.
Okay.
If
Understood.
we have an emergency after B1, and it's to do with the engines, I'll try and remember, I'm sure you'll give me a contingency power. We'll rotate in the normal way. If you can monitor my flying, which is the most important thing, then if we have a problem, let's agree the diagnosis between us again. I'll call for the checklist, you two do it, I'll do the flying.
Right.
Okay, I will take over the radio from you at that stage as well.
Okay.
And obviously if it needs an immediate return, we'll turn left. If we've got time, we'll fly away. If we have to dump fuel, we will, and we'll come back. Okay? 6,000 feet, as I've said, and just to remind you again, 3,300 feet for the safety line.
Fine.
We have one more passenger to come and then we've got everybody.
Thank you very much, Roger.
Okay, we're waiting for the load sheet. I'll listen out for that. And we've still got the brakes to sort out with the engineers, so we're up to that stage now.
Thank you. So that's brought us down to what we call the dotted line. It is actually a dotted line in the checklist, beyond which we can't go until we've got our very latest information on the load sheet. That will come out of the computers in the building. Our dispatch officer is now will be finally doing that at the moment, putting the final figures in. They'll be with us any moment now. One slightly unusual thing at the moment is that the brakes, as you've probably heard, we can't set them to park at the moment, which obviously is where we need them before we start the engines. And that's because our ground engineers are actually changing one of the wheels. When Roger was taking you around the external checks yesterday, he was pointing out the tyres and also indicating to you the sort of limits of wear that he would accept, that we would accept, to actually take depart with the aircraft. In towing the aircraft across, obviously one of the tyres has got a little bit scuffed, and in Roger's internal inspection, he's made the decision to have that tyre changed, and the ground engineers are doing it. That'll just take them a couple more minutes, and it's anticipated it shouldn't cause us a problem with our departure. So we're now just waiting for the final bit of computerised paperwork. In the meantime, I'm going to have a word with the passengers. So we've just had the load sheet presented to us, the computer printout of the weights and fuel distribution on the aircraft. I've just checked that and signed it. It's a legal document that requires the captain's signature, of course. And the flight engineer, Roger Bricknell, is putting the figures that he needs into his computers to manage the fuel and the centre of gravity, and he'll be going through that in some detail later. The engineers report that the wheel change is nearly complete. Scheduled departure time is approaching, all the passengers are on board, so things are coming together now for an on-time departure. Traffic control have given us our clearance, and actually have suggested to us there may be a slight delay in our departure as far as they're concerned, and in fact we may have to wait just a little bit of time, only maybe 5 minutes at the end of the runway. So we're going to get on with our normal procedures. You'll be able to watch us go through these, and wherever I can I'll be talking you through what we're doing and explaining the processes that we're going through. Engineers have just reported the wheel's been changed and that's complete, so the brakes are back on. We're just really waiting for the final door to be closed and we can get on our way. And when we get our clearance, Roger will be starting up the first 2 of our 4 Rolls-Royce engines, and while he does that, Les will be doing some checks from his side, and I will also be doing some checks from mine. And predominantly what I'll be checking are the flying controls, checking the hydraulic and electric feeds to the flying controls, going through a whole system of checks before we get on our way. I'll be doing that while Roger's starting the engine, so it's happening while we're pushing back and before we start our taxi out. You better follow us through all of these, and they'll start in just a few seconds' time.
Ready to continue with the checklist?
Load sheet.
It is checked.
Checked.
0 fuel weight, 0 fuel CG.
87.7, 52.08.
Checks.
Fuel remaining aircraft weight.
94.400, 182, 150.
Check. Load limit.
Checks.
They are set for a burn-off.
Takeoff data is correct. Start clearance we've got. Door line.
All out.
Master warning.
Recall 4-4 on those two. Checked.
Anti-collision line.
On.
Throttles.
Idle.
Engine B pump.
They are on.
Okay, down to you, roger for clearance to start.
Hello, ground.
Hello?
We're ready to start if you can give us the pressure and the clearance.
Okay, coming up.
Forward a little.
Air on 2.
Thank you very much indeed.
Air on 3.
Lovely. Well, we'll take number 3 first. Ready to start 3.
All clear.
Selecting 3 now. We check to make sure that the engine start valve opens, and then we go to the front of the aircraft to check that we have rotation on the engine. When we get to 12%, we open the HP valve to allow the fuel to go in, checking that we have a red light on the shutdown handle, and that we also have a start light on. The ignition light also comes on, and we have light up, which we require within 8 seconds. At 25%, the start valve closes, and I make a selection on our Debo switch to allow the engine to accelerate to our normal idle. We make sure that it goes through the rotating stall, which will involve it in going to 70% and then coming back slightly. We then check the systems for that engine are all operational. We're finished with the air on the right-hand side, ground.
Thank you.
Ready for the hydraulics, Dave?
Yeah, go ahead.
Selecting the hydraulics now.
Thank you.
We're ready to start number 2, ground.
Okay, clear, sir.
Number 2. Finish with the ground air.
Thank you.
Okay, number 3, number 2 engine.
They are running.
Hydraulic.
It is checked.
Hello, ground. Just make sure the ground equipment's clear. We're clear to push back when you're ready and call for brakes release.
Okay, thank you. Right, flight track, parking brake, set to release.
Okay, brakes release at 0936.
Thank you.
Okay for the visor, Dave. Visor going down.
very much. Number 4.
Okay.
Number 1, ground.
Okay. Right, flight check, parking brake set to park.
Stand by. And brake set to park.
Thank you.
Okay, number 4, number 1 engine.
They are running.
Pushback checklist complete. Nose wheel steering.
On, off. On, off.
Check this side. Flight controls, air system, trim, is all checked now. Cabin filled, all engaged. Engine and tight engine schedule.
It is off. We are flying over.
Brake bands.
On.
Idle switches.
Low.
Door warning.
Tested and off.
Engine P-pump.
They are all on.
Hydraulics.
Checks.
Electric.
Checked. Ground bypass.
Hello ground, just make sure the ground equipment's clear. We'll look for you on the left hand side, thanks for your help.
Okay, have a nice trip, bye-bye.
Thank you, bye-bye. And that's the after start checklist complete.
Thank you. So having started all 4 engines with pushback, we're now sitting in the middle of the Victor cul-de-sac, just outside Terminal 4. Les has been reading the completion of the checklist. That's the end of the stage at which he reads them. From now onwards, Roger will be reading the checklist. And we've just spoken to our man on the ground, who's been attached to us by intercom, and he's walking out onto the left-hand side, checking the area around the aircraft completely free of any obstacles, no vehicles around. And then he'll give me the signal to say that it's clear as far as he's concerned for us to taxi, and we just await our air traffic control clearance.
Ground, Speedbird Concord 1, request taxi
Seen the pin?
clearance.
Speedbird 1, right turn for 27 left.
Right, 27 left, Speedbird 1.
That's the taxi clearance that we anticipated, just out to the end of the cul-de-sac, turn right, a very short taxi to 27 left. We've just now got the visor down, the nose still at its 0 position, and we're now going to lower the nose to 5 degrees. Thank you, Les.
It's fine.
Well, taxiing. First thing I do then is check the brakes work properly before we go anywhere.
Clear to starboard.
And clear on my side, clear on Les's side, and we move forward and taxi.
The master warning was the number 3 air group. I've isolated it. We'll try it in the air.
Thank you. We're all strapped in, sir. All checks are correct. Passengers fully briefed. Doors and automatic.
Thank you.
The voice in the background there was our cabin service director, Russell Bairstow, just reporting that everything's secure in the cabin, all the crew and passengers have been briefed. So as far as he's concerned, the cabin is now secure for takeoff. That's a vital part of the pre-departure preparations as far as we're concerned. I'm now going to ask Roger to read the taxi checklist. Thanks, Roger.
Visor and nose.
Down 5-3.
Brakes.
Checked and normal.
Flight instruments.
Okay, looking at 027.
And 27028.
Stand by 021.
Checks.
Cross-checks, no
Check no
flags.
flags.
Flight controls EFC.
Are all in blue and the light is out.
Trimmed.
I've set and checked.
2.5. Set for takeoff.
Set for takeoff.
Speedbird 1, monitor, 118.5, bye-bye.
118.5, Speedbird 1, bye-bye.
So as we taxi out, I can see that there's one aircraft on the runway about to depart. There's one of our British Airways 767s ahead of us about to taxi on after he's gone, so it looks like there's nobody else around at the moment to stop us getting away quite quickly, other than the fact that air traffic control may have a slight delay down the line, further down our route before we actually get out across the ocean. It may just hold us back for a few moments, although I think the time is approaching when that delay won't be a factor.
Concorde 1, hold on to the company 76 depart, line up 27 left. You'll be rolling in about 3 minutes.
Reverse air shut-off check.
Go ahead.
Mid-travel forward. Idle. Idle reverse. And cancel. Seats and harness next.
Nice, lock power secure.
Lock power secure. So as the checks progress and we get nearer to the runway, we've just been told to line up after the 767 departs, so we should be going in just a couple of minutes' time or so. The check we just completed with the throttles is to ensure that the bucket system was working correctly, the sequencing was correct. And that's a check we do before every departure. The whirring sound you can hear in the background is Roger moving his seat. All our 3 seats here are electrically controlled. Because with the attitude at which the aircraft flies, it might be very difficult for us to move them manually.
Takeoff CG switch.
Should be normal, looks like it is, 53.5%.
It is normal. That checks.
53.5 seats.
The taxi checklist is then complete.
So the 767 just departed, and we're moving forward into our position on the runway 27 left. Got a nice day here today, quite good skies really, with some light cumulus cloud around. Looking ahead to our departure route, there's a bit of cloud out there, but nothing that should cause us any problems. Before takeoff check, please, Roger.
Briefing takeoff data.
No change to the briefing. The data's the same, 6,000 feet, 3,300 is the safety height.
Double check.
Checks landing lights.
Taxi turns on, the rest all off.
Transponder.
Sorry, Roger.
Transponder.
Transponder is set.
1012, I heard him say.
Yeah, 1012, cross check.
Checks both sides. Wheel lights.
Off.
Off.
Master warning.
Record, there's nothing there, inhibited.
Takeoff monitor.
Armed.
Reheat. Selected.
Concorde 1,
Alright.
takeoff 27 left, 240 at 10 knots.
Here's takeoff, Speedbird 1.
Pitch index.
13, cross check.
13% cross check.
Radar.
No, thank you. So
The before takeoff check is
we've
complete.
just been given our takeoff clearance. The reheats are primed, ready to switch in automatically when we open the throttles, and the wind's a bit from our left at about 10 knots. All set?
What's that?
Brakes released. 3, 2, 1, now.
Speedbird 1 rolling.
BQ 210 at 10.
Airspeed building.
Jardine 112, hello, continue for the hold 27 left, then hold on the left-hand side.
100 knots.
Power set.
P1. Rotate. P2. Positive climb.
Gear up, please.
Gear. knots.
Jordanian 112 is fine, continues to head after British Midland 737 depart, flight up 27 left. Gillen 43, continuing, Victor 14. Victor 14, failing left, right,
3, 2, 1, noise.
Yeah, so takeoff check, please.
Roger. Landing gear.
Lights off neutral.
Landing lights.
Echo 1 London 12907, good day.
12907, speedbird 1, bye-bye. Landing lights, taxi turns are on, the rest are off. London, good morning, speedbird Concorde 1, climb confidence 6,000 feet.
Speedbird 1, roger, 4.8, no speed restriction, climb altitude 6,000.
No speed suspicion, climbing 6,000 feet, speedbird 1. 6,000, check.
Check. Master warning.
13475, good day.
Has been recalled.
So here we are climbing at 250 knots now, and we're just to the south of Windsor, just come to the south of Windsor. 7 miles, 2 more percent, please, Roger.
Coming.
It's a little bit lumpy in the air today. There's quite a bit of thermal activity, probably quite good for gliding today, I would have thought. We just reached 7 miles from London on that 260 radial, turning right now to 273 inbound towards Woodley. Roger's added 2 more percent to the power, which gives us a little bit more performance.
Flight level 90.
Meets our height restriction. Traffic controller just cleared up to flight level 90. He said no speed restriction, which meant that we can accelerate beyond our normal or terminal control speed up to our required en route climb speed.
Put comms on your side, Dave.
Yes, please. And we've got a minute and a bit to go. That's good for height and time. Nose and visor can come to. So we're now going to select the nose and visor up as we've gone above 250 knots and we're slowly increasing speed. The Les is now going to make the selection.
Nose going to 0.
The nose is now at 0, but the visor's still down. Now he selects the visor to come up. This is going to streamline the aircraft and also make it considerably quieter up here on the flight deck. You've probably noticed already that we're using our intercom at all times. That's because the flight deck of Concorde is actually quite noisy, especially with the nose and visor down. It's quite reasonable in the cabin, of course, but because we're right at the pointed end here, we actually do get quite a lot of wind.
The after takeoff check complete.
Thank you. Right, just coming up towards Woodley. We've got to be at Woodley at 4,000 feet or above, which we're going to be. And after Woodley we'll make that.
One fly heading 285.
285 degrees, speedbird 1.
In fact, I was interrupted by traffic control. They have actually given us a radar heading as I anticipated. Brownlands are heading at 285, and they'll now start giving us headings to feed us out towards the west, towards our XL point.
Air master warning.
And that's the number 3 air group. I've just retried. I'll leave it off for the time being.
What you heard there was one of our master warnings coming up, the gong, and we saw a red light come up. That's to indicate, an amber light come up, which to indicate Roger needs to just give a little bit of attention to one part of his panel. It's not a major problem in any way. Quite normal actually on quite a warm day.
Climb flight level 130.
Climb flight level 130, speedbird 1.
Traffic controller giving us further climb now to flight level 130.
13,000
feet. That's
1013, set my side, double the height now.